Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Ruby. If you are new here, I'm a professional psychic medium, tarot reader, astrologer, and priestess. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing my favorite oracle decks of 2024. So how this list works is out of all of the decks that came into my collection in the year 2024, these ones really stood out. I connected with them very deeply. I think they offer something very unique to my personal collection, and they are going to, pretty much all of these decks will remain in the rotation for years to come. Now, this list isn't in any particular order. The first two are probably my favorite, which I almost hesitate to say because they came into my collection very recently. So recently that I wondered if it was even right for me to put them on the list, but I love them so much, it would be disingenuous for me to not include them. And these two oracle decks I have been using in tandem as a pair, and they are the Call of the Morrigan Oracle by Stephanie Woodfield and Naomi Kornack, and the Old Ways Oracle. This deck is very hard for me to handle. It's so big for my small hands. The Old Ways Oracle by Naomi Kornack. Now, both of these oracle decks have a very Celtic paganism flavor. This deck is solely focused on the deity of the Morrigan. The deck creator, Stephanie Woodfield, is a very dedicated priestess of the Morrigan. I talk about her books and my video I recently filmed on connecting in with the Morrigan. And I know that a few of you have asked for a full review of this deck, which is on my list. I think that this deck is everything you could possibly want when it comes to a oracle that is focused in on deity connection. The artwork is some of my favorite oracle artwork ever. I think it's right up there with me, right up there for me as the Isis and Kali oracles by Alana Fairchild, and how much I feel the artwork is a connection point to the energy of the deity itself. It's so beautiful. I love these backings too. And I really enjoy the cardstock, the feel. Now, the guidebook is a little too horizontal for my taste. It's similar to the Mary L. Tarot guidebook. I wish it was a different size, but that's really my only complaint about this deck. The content in the guidebook is wonderful. It has divinatory meanings and also rituals, invocations. Like I said, this is one of those gold standard oracle decks. It recently came out, really recently, at the beginning of this month, which is December 2024. And I can see myself working with it, again, for years to come. Now, the Old Ways, I believe it's called the Old Ways Oracle. Let me double check. Yes, the Old Ways Magic Oracle by Naomi Kornack is an independently produced deck through Naomi Kornack's website is where I purchased it, whereas the Call of the Morrigan deck is mass produced. I think this deck is so magical and stunning. I've been using both of these decks, like I said, in tandem. I feel they work very well together. And since the artwork is from the same artist, there's a seamlessness to working with them as a pair. Now, this deck is not exclusive to the energy of the Morrigan, though I use this deck solely to connect in with the Morrigan. I've been actually using it a little bit in my client readings as well, but when I'm using it personally, it is to receive messages from the Morrigan, and it has this beautiful Celtic, Irish pagan, really magical, earth-based wisdom to it that feels very in alignment with the Morrigan's mythology and energy. And it's so magical. This one took a while to receive after I purchased it. It was shipped from overseas and it was worth the wait. My only complaint about this deck, which I have shared, is that the cardstock is slippery and it is quite large for my hands, and so it is just slip and slide for me to shuffle this. The Call of the Morrigan is much easier for me to maneuver, but when it comes to content and artwork, some of it, probably my favorite decks of the year, which again, I always hesitate to proclaim when a deck is so recently in my collection because Limerence is real, Puppy Love is real, but I don't think my opinion on these two decks is going to be changing. Now, the next deck on the list is also a deity deck. It is the Oracle of the Hecatean Path by Ken Payne and Chris Butler. Now, I have not been shy about, my opinion with this artwork. It's really just not my personal favorite artwork, and it is published by Lo Scarabeo, so the cardstock quality is not my favorite, and the guidebook leaves a lot to be desired. Now, I think that is more the fault of the publisher than it is the deck creator. It's very standard Lo Scarabeo quality of cardstock and guidebook. Now, I have heard that the deck creator is releasing an extended guidebook for this Oracle deck, which I will definitely be purchasing when it is out on the market. The reason why this deck is on the list, even though, again, it's not my favorite artwork, is because it is very connected to the energy of Hecate. I feel it is very true to Hecate's energy. You can very much tell that the deck creators are very sincere in their desire to create a deck that is very true to Hecate's nature. And if you are new to working with Hecate, I feel this deck is an incredibly helpful learning tool to understand really her multidimensionality and her nature. And you can use this deck and ritual work with her. You can use this deck to receive messages from her. It's really lovely in its use as a tool for connecting with the goddess Hecate. If you aren't connected to Hecate, I don't think you need this deck in your collection. If you are a devotee of Hecate or she is a goddess you are interested in getting to know, I think this one would be a valuable addition to your collection. Do I love this one as much as I love the Call of the Morrigan Oracle? No. If the artwork was more in alignment with my personal taste, that would maybe be a different answer, because I do love the cards themselves, and again, the connection point to Hecate's energy with this deck for me is very strong, and I feel it's also a very clear divinatory reader. This deck I've also used in readings with clients who I feel have a Hecatean connection or have expressed with me that they do, because it reads very clear in terms of divination. So that is the Oracle of the Hecatean Path by Ken Payne and Chris Butler. It is mass market. It might be in my deck list on Amazon. The next deck on this list is the Queen Mab Oracle by Tess Whitehurst. The beginning of 2024 feels so long ago. I was struggling to remember if I actually got this deck this year or not. The beginning of 2024 feels like it was 5 years ago. I believe I got this deck because another YouTube tarot creator recommended it. I think that's the case, or maybe I just heard other creators talking about this deck after I picked it up, but I believe that's how I found out about this deck. To me, this deck is on par with Alana Fairchild's best Oracle decks. The reason why this deck is on the list for me is really the guidebook. How I use this deck, it only is a personal reader for me. I don't use it in client readings. It is a draw one card and read the guidebook and receive the exact wisdom that you need in the moment. This is absolutely a channeled guidebook. Tess Whitehurst did such a great job with it. And also she is such a sweetheart. We have connected very briefly over Instagram and her energy is just wonderful. Now, in terms of artwork, again, this to me doesn't like really speak to my soul in the way some other decks on this list do, but I like it for what it is. And I think it is very aligned with the messaging in the guidebook. Now, this is very much a dark feminine deck. It feels very aligned with dark feminine energy, and the guidebook speaks a lot to empowerment and sovereignty and authenticity, and it's definitely a little more in the shadow work territory, but in a very loving, gentle way. If you are a fan of the Alana Fairchild decks and the Lucy Cavendish decks, I think that this is going to be very much so in your wheelhouse. Now, the next deck on the list is on the list because the artwork is just so special to me, and it is the Lautin Oracle by Lautin. That's her handle on Instagram. I don't know if I know the actual name of this artist. It is published by Los Scarabeo. And if a deck ever matched my energy and my essence and my color palette and my soul, it is this oracle. How I feel about the Sistine Tarot in terms of, oh my god, this deck is just me in deck form. That is how I feel about the Lautin Oracle. Now, sadly, it is published by Los Scarabeo, so again, not the most groundbreaking guidebook by any means. It is definitely just a jumping off point. And the cardstock, it's not the shiny cardstock that I have come to have a very complicated relationship with, that most Los Scarabeo decks are have, like the Murder of Crows or the Oracle of the Hecatean Path. I really do not enjoy that like wet, shiny cardstock. This is a little more matte, which I feel lends itself to the artwork very well. And just look how much we match. Now, the archetypal world, the archetypal realm, and the story that this deck tells is very near and dear to my heart. Just like, look how beautiful this is. From a very young age, I was very drawn into stories like Beauty and the Beast and Eris in Psyche, or Cupid in Psyche, and Persephone in Hades, and the Phantom of the Opera. These stories of, innocent girl meeting the underworld, meeting a trickster god, or some dark god, and having a transformative experience. That story is just really cemented into my psyche. It feels like a story and a narrative that I just felt very magnetized to from a very young age. You could say it's my Pluto in the first house and in opposition with my Sun in the seventh. We love a bad boy. But this deck, again, not only is the artwork so just stunning, probably like my favorite tarot or oracle artwork of all time, but the archetypal tale, the journey, the themes, the mythology of wolf and maiden, you could say, is something that feels very deep in my own soul and in my own psyche. Now, it's been a while since I've worked with this deck. I just pulled it out actually recently because it feels to me like February. This deck to me feels like just like the kiss of cold winter at a time when I'm usually more introspective and in my own personal world and personal mythology. This is a deck I haven't used For client readings, I just used this deck personally. I used this deck during a time in my life last year where I was processing a lot of heartbreak. And I think that's why I've taken a little bit of a break from this deck the latter half of the year. It was just very reminiscent of a time where I was really in some more challenging material in my personal life. But I will always love this deck because just how could you not? I would love more decks from this creator too. She's one of my favorite artists just of all time. It's so evocative to me of just this very ephemeral part of my own being. So that is the Lautin Oracle. Now, the last Oracle deck on this list is actually an updated version of the first Oracle deck that I ever purchased years and years and years ago. And it is the Lightworker Oracle Fierce Love 1111 edition by Alana Fairchild. This artwork in this deck is just stunning, stunning, stunning. Up there with the Lautin Oracle and the Naomi Kornick decks that I showed you as like some of my favorite Oracle artwork of all time. Now, I love the quality of the Blue Angel Alana Fairchild decks, and this feels like even more of a elevation of those decks. I think it is the most stunning, elevated, high quality deck Alana Fairchild has put out yet. The guidebook is pretty much word for word the same as the original Lightworker Oracle guidebook. I believe the beginning of the deck the beginning of the guidebook deck might have some newer material, but the card definitions themselves feel pretty word for word. The backings are such a step up from the original backings, and the artwork is just, I'm speechless. I can't even really express words to describe how gorgeous it is. This artist, like I need more. I need more. Now, this deck does contain some of the original images from the original Lightworker Oracle as well. This is one of them. My real only complaint with this deck is that it didn't just totally do all new images, because the new artwork is so much more amazing, stunning, I can't even, again, I'm speechless, that some of the old artwork can get a little distracting. I wasn't a fan of the original artwork for this deck. I've loved the content in the Lightworker Oracle deck, very sentimental to me because it's, again, the first Oracle deck I ever got, but it feels very dated, the original Lightworker Oracle, specifically when paired with some of Alana Fairchild's other offerings. And also it has this kind of icky new age feeling to it, kind of some of that like underlying like racism that we see in some of the earlier, more new agey artwork, and you know, how certain concepts are painted. And so this deck being more diverse in its representation, I feel is really needed if, you know, this deck was going to stand the test of time and not really give modern practitioners a bit of an ick. And this deck is actually on display usually because it's just so lovely. And it's been such a joy to work with, and probably one of the decks I've worked with the most in my personal practice. This deck will probably definitely show up on my most used decks for my personal practice in 2024 list. So that is all. Most of these decks I used personally as opposed to professionally, and they were just such a sweet medicine for me as I moved through a lot of more challenging material in my personal life this year. There was a lot of shifts and changes, and each of these decks offered really unique and beautiful medicine. So I will be back within the next week or two sharing my favorite tarot decks of 2024, as well as the decks I use most in my personal spiritual practice this year. And as always, I am sending you so much love, and I will see you again soon.